"You can't park here. This truck belongs to the city now." That's what she spat at me, flat cold, just as the tow truck backed into my driveway like they'd rehearsed the move 100 times. I remember staring at that neon red sticker slapped on my windshield, my chest tightening because in just a few more minutes, the only truck my dad and I had ever rebuilt together would have been gone forever, crushed into scrap under the weight of some fake authority. My name's Jordan Bryant. I live in Riverside Meadows, one of those neighborhoods that looks perfect on paper-manicured lawns, spotless sidewalks, kids on bicycles, until you meet the HOA. They call it keeping standards, but what it really feels like is a private little empire ruled by people who love control more than community. And right at the center of it was Evelyn Drake. She wasn't even the president. She called herself the compliance officer, but you'd think she was the sheriff, the judge, and the executioner rolled into one. That morning she marched up my driveway like she owned it, heels clicking, binder tucked under one arm. Without so much as a hello, she waved at the tow truck, recited something about fire code violation 742, and slapped that sticker on my old Ford. This wasn't just any truck. It was the one Dad and I rebuilt from rust when I was 17. It was memory and blood and grease, and Saturday afternoons rolled into steel. And now this woman was trying to steal it under the guise of safety. I pulled out my phone, hit record, and asked her straight up, "Show me the paperwork. Who signed off on this?" She smirked like I was a child tugging at her sleeve and muttered something about city orders, but when Officer Lewis from the local precinct showed up, even he frowned. "Ma'am, I've never heard of a code like that. You sure this is legitimate?" Evelyn's face twitched, her lips pulled tight. She spun on her heel and snapped, "This isn't over," before storming off. That should have been the end, but of course it wasn't. Within a week, envelopes started piling up. Notice of impound, failure to comply, all on official-looking letterhead. They demanded I surrender the truck or face escalating fines. I spread the papers across my kitchen table. Renee, my wife, looking over my shoulder, both of us realizing something was rotten. The phone number listed for city vehicle enforcement out of service. The code violations didn't exist in any public record. Still, the pressure worked. Night after night, I stared at those papers, convincing myself maybe I'd missed something. Maybe I was the fool here. What if Evelyn was right? What if I really couldn't keep the truck there? It ate at me. I stopped sleeping. I started snapping at Renee, brushing off Ellie when she asked if we could take the truck for ice cream like we used to. I hated myself for even thinking it, but I started wondering if I should just sell the damn thing, avoid the fight, escape the stress. One night, slumped on the couch, surrounded by crumpled notices, I whispered to Renee, "Maybe I don't belong here. Maybe they're right. Maybe I should just give up." She took my hand but didn't argue, and that silence hurt worse than the threats. But then, like some twist in a cheap detective movie, I noticed something. On one of the letters, tucked at the bottom, was a contact name, T. Drake. I Googled it. Guess who popped up? Trevor Drake. Evelyn's son. He ran a little storage and salvage business online. My stomach dropped. The next day I started asking around, knocked on doors. At first, people were hesitant, eyes darting, voices low like we were talking about some mafia don. But then stories spilled out. Mrs. Patterson, an older widow down the street, told me how her late husband's vintage motorcycle almost vanished after she got a similar impound notice. A guy named Justin, who just moved here from Guatemala, showed me a crumpled ticket demanding he hand over his entire set of construction tools. It wasn't just me. Evelyn had been running a con, printing fake documents, slapping bogus codes on anything she wanted, and funneling the seized property through her son's so-called business. We weren't neighbors to her. We were inventory. That's when the fear in my gut burned into something hotter. Anger. No way in hell was I letting her win. We gathered. A ragtag group of pissed-off neighbors clutching our bogus notices like evidence from a crime scene. I stood before the city council meeting, my palms sweaty but my voice steady. I laid out the pattern, the fake codes, the disconnected numbers, the Drake family connection. One by one, others stepped up, showing their notices, telling their stories. The room buzzed. Then Fire Chief Williams, who'd been sitting silent in the back, finally stood and said, "There is no Code 742. These documents are forgeries, and the HOA has zero authority to impound private property." The gasp that rolled through the room, it was like oxygen rushing into lungs starved too long. Evelyn sat there rigid, her face pale under the harsh lights. For once, she didn't have a comeback. The council voted to escalate everything straight to the state attorney's office. From there, things moved fast. I was contacted by Ava Coleman, an investigator with the state attorney. She asked if I'd help gather hard proof. My hands were shaking, but I agreed. We wired a recorder, set up a meeting under the guise of clarifying my violations. Evelyn, arrogant as ever, started talking. Boasting, really. She admitted to borrowing city templates for her notices, laughed about how residents are too scared to check, and even bragged that Trevor was holding items until she figured out how to resell them. Every word captured on tape. A week later, police raided Trevor's shop. They found car parts, lawn equipment, even Mrs. Patterson's missing motorcycle frame. They seized Evelyn's home printer, an industrial-grade machine stacked with pre-printed city seals. And in her files, a list of targets with my name at the top. Next to it, truck prime value. The day the Drakes were arrested, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt hollow, exhausted, watching Evelyn in cuffs screaming about mistakes and witch hunts. I realized how fragile this whole system had been, how close I'd come to losing everything because one woman's hunger for control went unchecked. She was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison for fraud, forgery, conspiracy. Trevor got 8. The restitution order was over $200,000. The HOA's entire leadership was dissolved. That night I pulled the truck into the driveway and just sat there, engine idling, headlights washing over the front porch. It wasn't victory music. It was relief. Quiet, shaky, but real. Because here's the truth I learned: bullies thrive in silence, in compliance. All it takes is one person refusing to back down to pull the thread, and the whole illusion unravels.